Oh, there she is. There she is. Why did she make that look hot?
The truth, we take it higher. Watch the fence, we tear them apart. You step out of line, we hit you hard. I think they run the show. Put your power where they shouldn't go. We come out,
Spit on that thing.
say, respect the law, or did you all play? We like what we think, we speak the truth. Chase it down, we bring the proof. React, raw, no filter here. Beer and whiskey, we shift the gears. Chase the beer, chase the flame. We react, we bring the name. Cops don't run, they break the law. It's all the crime. Shots fired, drink it down. We bring justice to your town. Beer, whiskey, no disguise. We react, we bring the name. Cops don't run.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Assholes React. I'm Whiskey 77. The ugly guy over there next to me, that's 3 beers. And we have Steve Sidecar Gosney with us tonight. If you know, you know.
I don't have a sidecar now, but I appreciate it.
We're here
Well,
to talk
we've
about
got to complete the triangle here. We've got beer and whiskey and sidecar, right?
Yeah, there you go.
And that works.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about the Florida CDL crash. This is kind of near and dear to me. I am a truck driver, as many of you know in the chat. Steve is perfect for this. As soon as we started talking about doing this show, I went, oh my God, I've got to get hold of Steve. Because he was a prosecutor at one point, criminal defense attorney, criminal appeals attorney, and is now working in civil truck litigation.
That's
So,
it, man. What a perfect triumvirate of.
I'm telling you,
yeah.
like, the circle is complete.
Yep.
I said to Beers the other day, I was like, let's do this. Like, I'm going to get hold of Steve.
Yes.
like, you think
Thank
we
you
can
for
get it?
thinking
We
of
can get
me.
it.
It's very kind.
Oh, well, Steve, we love you. We've watched you for ever since you've been around on YouTube.
Yeah.
One of the
I
most
know,
lovable
I know.
lawyers out there.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. No, well, thank you for the invite. And actually, I don't know much about this case, so I'm going to be listening to you and what you have to say about it and
Okay.
learn. And I'll try to drop in whatever knowledge I have. But I'm interested in this because it is in my area, and it's in my area locally, statewide, in the Florida
Oh, yeah.
Turnpike, which we do a lot of cases.
I know,
off
yeah.
the Florida
Being a
Turnpike.
Floridian myself, I was like, holy crap. But you're also a big cat lover.
I do. I love kitties, and
I
I love cats
do.
and animals. And I've
Yeah.
got, I've written books about dogs and cats, and I've
Yeah.
had a little. Today I had a little stream about my alley cat, which is a cat that adopted me, and then he got taken from me. From somebody must have grabbed him off the street. He's a stray, and I think I might have found him. So we're looking for if somebody's in the Miami area and wants to adopt a great cat. I think I found him, and that was at 8 o'clock. I did a stream on that, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, love animals.
Well, I actually have 2 cats on the truck. I have one Ohio who's been on the truck for, 9 years now. 9 years.
Wow.
Was never intended to be a truck cat, but the situation she was in, it was, well, she's not staying here, so she's got to go with you. And I went, oh God. And I threw her on the truck, and within 30 miles of her first trip on a truck, she curled up in the dashboard and went to sleep. And I
Now,
went,
how do you like? I'm just sort of a curiosity because dogs are one thing, but a cat in a truck, like, so when you stop, does the cat go out and pee pee or whatever? Did it knows to
No.
come back to the truck?
no, no, I'd never trust that to happen. I have a litter box on the truck. It gets cleaned daily. And she pat and says she gets plenty of exercise. And then I had actually taken 2 years off and ran local in Florida. I said, I'm never going back to OTR. I'm giving up my OTR wings. I got my miles. I was like, nope, I'm done. And then several months ago, a buddy of mine called me and said, this is an opportunity you've got to take.
Hey,
I
I got to
went,
give a shout out here. We got a shout out to Lord of the Ree, who's my rock and roll buddy, and he gave $5 on my Rumble channel. So
Oh, nice.
thank you
There
very
you
much,
go.
Lord of the Ree.
There you go.
Yes, it's Lord of the Ree. You know Lord of the Ree? I see you've got a number. Like Fondon is here. Fondon's a trucker too.
Yep, Fonda's trucker. I know Fonda from other chats. We got Ag Biochemist, one of our regulars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of the rest, some of the crowds coming in here. So let's go start here. I'm going to run the back end today, and this is unusual because usually beers runs the back end.
Yeah. I'm just along for
So
the ride today.
she's along for the ride today. We're going to see how this goes. So this is Harjinder Singh, age 28, entered the country in 2018, applied for a work I-765 work permit, which is if you're legally in the country. We'll argue the semantics about that another time. But if you're because he did enter through Mexico illegally, uh, you got to file for a work permit. It was denied initially. It was later approved, although there is no date known of when that was actually approved. In July 2023, he receives a Washington CDL with a 1-year term, which, if he had the I-765, he could get it. But there's other problems with why he should have never gotten a CDL to begin with. Then in July 2024, he receives a California CDL, domicile CDL. The difference between a domicile CDL and what I have is a Class A CDL, is that says that you're currently in the country and allowed to work, not that you're full-fledged CDL. Because we've had this problem that's been going on for a long time of immigrants coming in and getting CDLs. And the problem I have with this is it's just so bloody dangerous. And see if I get this pulled up. Boom, look at this. Look at this. I'm almost as good as Beers. And I-94 is an arrival departure record issued to U.S. Customs and Border Protection to a foreign traveler entering the United States. It serves several important purposes. It records a traveler's entry into the U.S., the date of entry, class of admission, a tourist or student. It outlines the parameters for foreign individuals must comply with during their temporary stay, including how long they remain in the U.S. An I-94 is electronically issued to non-immigrants and determines the duration of their legal stay regardless of their visa's expiration date. It includes essential information: traveler's name, country of citizenship, and the date authorized stay expires. Now, the I-94 is what he needed to be able to attain work. You can't just walk in anywhere and go, "Hi, I just slid across the border illegally. I need a job." Well, you
now,
can't.
did he come over illegally or legally?
He came over illegally.
Okay.
He
But then
didn't even claim us.
He gets a California CDL.
He got a
West
Washington
Coast.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah. He came in. He waited a full year before he requested asylum. And of course, it wasn't an asylum issue.
Well, where is he from? He's from Pakistan?
Nobody's officially India.
India, okay.
India. Which is rather comical, watching the people from India raise money for him and plead that he get a slap on the wrist for this, because it was just an accident.
Well,
and I tell you right now, as a truck driver,
that's something we can talk about, the criminal and the civil legal aspects of it. But I'm learning, I'm listening, so please keep going because I'm learning as you're talking.
So that's where, I did show that one. Hey, cool. Let's see here. Let's go with this one here. Now, this is where a lot of places are getting it wrong, because they're saying, oh, it's illegal for them to come into the country and drive. It's always been illegal. Well, that's not true. In the 1980s to 2011, lawful presence was sufficient for a CDL eligibility. No standardized documents of status were required. So you could come in from another country without U.S. citizenship and get a CDL. And that truck drivers back in the 80s to 2011 were screaming about this, but it was such a very small minority of people that were doing this, because the standards, especially back then, were a lot higher than they are now for a CDL. Joe Schmo couldn't just walk in, take a quick test, and go. And for those that don't know, to attain a CDL, you need to go, well, now, under the current standards, you have to go to a CDL school, which is anywhere from 4 weeks is the fastest one. Some of them go upwards of 12 weeks. And then during that course, you get what's called a TIP, a temporary instruction permit. And this allows you to drive on the roads with a licensed instructor. And this is someone who has been licensed by that particular state to teach people to drive a truck. From there, you finish your training course, you take the actual CDL test. Now, the current test is scaled far down than it used to be. It used to be written test, 200 questions. Now it's a computer, and if you get a certain percentage right in each of the 3 sections of the test, then you move on to the next section. And which I think is complete crap. And then from there, you would go to either a company that is a training company. A lot of the companies that do training, or you'll see on the road every day. You'll see Swift, Schneider, CR England, JB Hunt, Werner. These are all training companies. There's a lot more than that, but those are just the big ones that most people see every day on the highway. In January 30th, 2012, legal presence must now be documented. Citizenship of or lawful permanent residency proof required, or a non-domicile status. So they made it a little tighter in 2012 to be able to get a CDL. Then in March 7 of 2019, FMC clarifies CDL eligibility for those with an EAD or a valid passport plus the I-94 document we went through, where you have to be able to prove where you came from, what you're here for, how long you're going to stay. You can come in on a work visa. Now, there are a lot of these foreign countries that are pushing where you can go to America and be a truck driver. And that's great. I am all for immigration. I'm not against immigration whatsoever. I just want you to use the front door.
Oh,
That's my biggest problem. Just use the front door. And truck driving, for some reason, and it's our politicians that do this, kind of went, oh, well, we'll just throw them out on the highway. This is incredibly dangerous. Like Steve and Beers and I were talking earlier, to safely operate a tractor trailer, which is essentially an 80,000-pound freight train, you need to have your wits about you. You need to be quick. And I have watched many, many, many drivers wash out over the years. Either they get in wrecks in their first year, or they realize they just can't handle the life, because it's not easy. It's a hard schedule. I work the easiest schedule I've ever worked in my trucking career now. But I've got enough years under my belt that I've worked myself into a position where I don't need to run around the clock anymore. Anything else there, guys?
Well, can I make a little shout out here to Diamonds and Henna, who is one of my supporters, $5 Rumble Rant. Love you too. Great to see you on today. Thank you very much. And are you still in South Florida? Diamonds and Henna is one of the first fans I ever met. And she was in Miami when I came down. We did the Ricada thing in Miami. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
When Nick signed his Rumble deal, and I came down to Miami to did a meet and greet. And I met Diamonds and Henna there. I'm wondering if she's still in South Florida. But anyway, thank you very much for the $5 Rumble Rant. Sorry for the intro there.
No, you're fine. Now, another thing I've heard through a lot of these streams is drugs are rampant in trucking. Drugs are not rampant in trucking whatsoever. This is called the Alcohol Clearinghouse. Every truck driver as a CDL must be registered on this site. Every company must report to this site. Every truck driver takes a drug test at least once a year, a drug and alcohol screening every year, and it has to be documented to the clearinghouse. So say they go apply to a new job, that company is going to put in notice to the clearinghouse that they need authorization for the records. Clearinghouse is going to send that driver a message to give authorization, and then they're going to be able to see every drug test they've ever taken, every false drug test that's ever come back, every positive drug test come back, every alcohol test is going to come back. So it's an extremely highly regulated field. And we're one of the few industries that everything we do in a vehicle affects our life. If I'm on a snowmobile crossing the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and I get caught with a high blood alcohol content, it immediately affects my CDL. If I get caught on a four-wheeler in the middle of the woods and I'm under the influence, they can revoke my CDL. Companies will not look at you anymore. You'll either won't look at you or you'll go work for a company that, frankly, you don't want to work for.
Yeah.
Guys that just won't pay you, or you're just not making enough money to live.
Yeah, and then, there's now with the electronic monitoring too, there's a lot of, about the rest of the mandatory stops and, how long you can go, how fast you can go. I mean, there's a lot of regulation, a lot of oversight on.
Oh, that reminds me.
Well, and there's all kinds of Middle Eastern and Eastern European nations that run trucking companies in the U.S. that are literally go in there and they wipe the logs of their drivers. They adjust their
Yeah.
clocks. They do all this stuff.
Oh, come on now, pull up. I deliberately did this the other day just so that I
There
could.
was a question, somebody asked a question, I think it was American Dreamer. Can you get the death penalty? Could this person get the death penalty for what happened here? Well, Florida does have the death penalty, and there is an aggravator, which is multiple deaths, that theoretically could qualify them for the death penalty. However, the death penalty is reserved for first-degree murder. Florida also has added on this sex offense thing, which is ridiculous and unconstitutional. But generally, the U.S. Supreme Court says the death penalty is reserved for first-degree murder and only the worst of the worst. Now, multiple homicides would be if it was first-degree murder, would qualify. But I don't believe this is first-degree murder. This would be a negligent homicide,
Yeah.
a reckless type thing, which would be probably a manslaughter, third-degree murder charge in Florida. So, and third-degree murder would not qualify for the death penalty. So the answer would be no. It would probably score life in prison, but which to me should be the maximum penalty anyways. But no death penalty. But good question.
So you're talking about the hours. This is something a lot of people don't see. This is what's called an ELD, electronic logging device. Pretty much every single truck in the country now has this. Very few trucks are left on paper logs or what we used to call coloring books. Take a look at that and tell me how confusing that thing reads. The U.S. truck driver gets 70 hours in an 8-day period to work. And then they have 14 hours of on-duty time in any given day. So from the time I start my day to the I can't possibly do another thing, it's 14 hours. I get 11 hours of driving in a single day, maximum. And then the shift break 8 hours. I can't work more than 8 hours without taking a 30-minute break. Those clocks run every single day. And the only way to reset those clocks to zero is to stop for 34 hours and do nothing. And it's not uncommon to run out a 70-hour clock in 6 days. And you get 8 days to do it, but you can run it out fast, real fast. For instance, I started a reset yesterday, and I don't have any hours coming back until Sunday night or tonight at midnight, because you get the hours you worked on a particular day, you get back at midnight 8 days later. So every driver runs on this. And this is actually another thing that has caused a rise, frankly, in accidents in truck driving, because now instead of being able to pace your day and run what you feel you can handle, now you're racing a clock because the clock runs your life. And it never used to be that way. But it is.
Yeah, American Dreamer, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. I appreciate you too. And I see Hunter Logan is in my chat. And Hunter Logan is a law student, and he talks about vehicular homicide. Yes, but vehicular homicide is not first-degree murder. So that is a lesser form of murder. So, but good question.
And I've lost the crash. I love it when tabs disappear on the back end.
Yep.
Well, so first-degree murder, requires intent, a guilty heart, and that means. So, for example, if there was some sort of like intentional killing here, which it's not an intention, it's just a moron. A lot of interesting, good comments, and thank you, comment section. Thank you, chatters, for your great comments.
Let's see.
Yeah, people don't realize how regulated the trucking industry is. Here's an interesting little. Well, we'll get into the civil aspects of this also, I'm sure. But did you know that one of the major trucking companies in the country, I mean, one of the top countries, spends more money on insurance than they do on gas.
I believe it.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll talk about the insurance aspect of this, but yeah, I mean, when a plaintiff's lawyer sees a trucking company, they lick their chops.
Oh, they absolutely do. It's
Well,
amazing
and
to me how fast. Well, there was an accident I was involved in back in 2017, and the carrier that I was contracted to, even though I was completely zero fault for the accident, everything happened behind me. It just happened to collect into the back of my trailer. My company I was contracted to was paying people off just to not sue,
Right,
and
and
that's
there's a
come the
cost of
culture.
litigation,
mhm.
Yep.
and that's the thing, and you've got a big insurance policy. It's really a problem. Um, it's really a problem in the system in that I don't know. I mean, it's a weird system. I'm just getting into it. I've been doing now trucking litigation for about a year, and it's very strange. Let's just
Will you
say,
see if you can find the actual dash cam portion of that video because I
yeah,
had it and I lost it. And we can go into other stuff here.
yeah,
Uh,
like dash cams. First, Gigi says dash cams have done a lot to help truckers, though. I kind of use the analogy of body cams in cops because the cops, you say, oh, we don't want body cams, we don't want body cams because it'll. But what it turned out as a defense attorney, I found that body cams about 95% of the time vindicated the cops.
Yeah.
Were great. So I think, and I've seen some great trucker maneuvering, and we talked a little bit. Some of these commercial drivers can pull some stuff off that I couldn't do in a car, and so the drive cams are great because they're objective and they're very and so you don't get liars. I've got a case right now without a drive cam, and we have some engineering assistance,
yeah.
crash engineering assistance. And the way that the plaintiff is describing the accident, there's no way it could have happened that way based
You're
on
reading into the CPU in the truck itself, checking
well,
the braking pressures, all
yeah,
the acceleration.
no, it was based on the crash dynamics of the car, the way the car, how fast the car was going, how fast the truck was going. There's a number of things that it's kind of complicated, and I can't talk about it too much. But the fact is that if we had had a drive cam, it would have just solved this case. But now it becomes a jury trial because now it's the word of the driver of the car versus the word of the driver of the truck, and that makes it much more tricky. I
Yeah.
know that our driver is telling me the truth when he tells me what happened because I have the physics behind it. But we're
Well,
going to have to explain that to the jury.
in modern trucks, the ECM works essentially almost as a black box. It'll tell you how much braking pressure, how many degrees the steering wheel turned, what the acceleration rate was, how many G forces, right down to how many G forces the truck will pull. And there's so many
Right.
crash dynamics into a truck because even the cab mounts where the driver sits to the frame, those bolts are rated to brake at a certain G force so that the cab will actually separate and protect the driver, which is absolutely amazing.
You've got a super chat from Philip Coggins, who's a commercial pilot, and he's fascinated by your hours analysis in the trucking industry.
Yeah.
You see that super chat?
I am not looking at chat. Beers is, but we don't get we're not
Yeah.
monetized yet, so that would be to you.
Oh, well, thank
Yeah.
you very much. Here, I'll read it to you. He says, Philip Coggins, $5 super chat, commercial pilot here. Thanks for explaining your times. It seems more strict than mine. Limited to 40 hours flying every 5 days. Very interesting. Yeah, and that's the pilot
Ooh, and
analogy.
they get autopilot.
Yeah. Oh, and Fondon, he's a trucker and he listens on the road. He's a good guy. I love Fondon. He's he's one of my favorite chatters. And he says the reason I don't like inward facing ones because basically I live in the truck and change clothes and don't like the
Yeah.
idea of someone. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the inward facing camera. That one
I
I'm not
won't
as
run
big
for a
fan.
company that requires them.
Yeah, but the outward, I'd much prefer the drive cam, because the outward facing cameras. Yeah, I
On
don't
my
know about
particular
inward.
truck, I have one center mount on the windshield. I have one off of each side mirror that points down the sides. And then I also have another one at the top of the back of the tractor that looks down on my load. Because I
Yeah.
do a lot of high value. Well, everything I do is high value, and I do a lot of wide load.
Mm.
And I do high end boats. That's all I do. So monitoring my load is extremely important because I can pick up boats with extremely expensive radar systems and GPS systems already in them. When being from Florida, you get into a chart plotter system, you can be in the thousands of dollars.
Oh
Just
yeah.
that stuff. These are all brand new systems. Piers, did you see that Ag sent that video over to us?
Oh, did he? I shut down this.
Oh, that's all right. You have it?
I got one from a newscast, a 2 minute 15 second.
Go ahead. As long as it's got the dash cam in it. Where mine went. You have to forgive me. I upgraded my computer system this weekend, so I'm getting used to a whole new setup. And it's better than what I had, but it's still, I've got screens everywhere again. I got to get used to that.
I don't know if you saw my interview with Usher Transportation,
I did.
And I also did an interview with the automated trucking guys, and they said that what you're doing there is the most difficult to automate, and also the highest value.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm looking around here. I chat. I see you. Thank you very much for being here. We've got an interesting show. We're talking about this immigrant who did a U-turn. Oh, we were talking about a U-turn on the Florida Turnpike. So what do you think about doing a U-turn on the Florida Turnpike down in South Florida in a commercial truck?
Yeah. Go ahead, Pierce.
Driver accused of making an illegal U-turn and causing a deadly crash is in jail in St. Lucie County tonight. Harjinger Singh was extradited back to Florida from California overnight. The feds say he's in the country illegally.
Maybe I grabbed
Fox
the wrong
35's
one.
Manny Martinez explains what's next for the suspect.
He's gonna face the music.
Harjinder Singh walked into the St. Louis.
Right here is the dash cam of the accident.
Was driving an 18-wheeler on the Florida Turnpike when he tried to make an illegal U-turn.
Hit pause.
That caused him.
GG Samsara is another one of the ELD systems. It's a way to document pre-trip inspections, post-trip inspections, your logging. They also built a camera system as well that's integrated into a built-in server on the truck that'll offload to a GPS satellite system.
Look, it's interesting. Look down here on the bottom right. Dan Newland, injury lawyer. Billions of dollars. That's not pretty ironic?
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So yeah, this guy just straight from the right shoulder cranks a hard left right across the road. And I got to tell you, I've seen people say, "Oh, why didn't that van see it and slow down?" And I can tell you from many hundreds of thousands, millions of miles, you're talking from the time he hit that accelerator to the time he was completely crossing 3 lanes of traffic within 3 seconds. It doesn't take long. And that's an automatic truck. That's an international.
And this is the Florida Turnpike where speeds are regularly 80. And
well, they're not posted 80, but they are 80.
It's 80 plus, easy on the Florida Turnpike.
Yeah.
And you don't expect, and this is basically a stopped vehicle, and this is a very, very dangerous situation to have something stopped in a road that basically you've got high speed traffic. It's crazy. When I saw this, I was shocked. And when I found out it was on the Florida Turnpike, unbelievable. I know this area.
I fully expect the crash report to come out that the van was probably doing 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, sure.
So
that car was maybe 5 seconds out. It takes 10, 15 seconds to pull that maneuver off.
And
from
if you
side to
see,
side,
and
no,
the road is completely blocked there. So you're talking
I
about.
actually did a mock test on this the other day after this crash. I've been where I can't give away my location, but where I've been, there's only cornfields. And I was curious as to how would it take in a large parking lot, the about distance. So I came to a complete stop. And this is a International ProStar full automatic. And I have an automatic as well now. So I just came to a complete stop, hard turned the wheel and launched it. And to cover 45 feet took me 3.5 seconds. So that fast. And that's when you're traveling at 80 miles an hour and you're not expecting a truck to come make a turn like that, which is highly illegal. You're not allowed any circumstances to use an emergency turnaround. They didn't expect that.
No, it's and there's really, I mean, where could that a person have gone? Even if they laid on the brakes, this
Well,
person.
if you watch it a few times, you'll see the back end's kicked out on that minivan.
He was
It's starting to go sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
No, there was nothing. I don't think there's, unless the driver.
If that truck was loaded at max weight, you're talking probably around 42,000 pounds worth of cargo at max weight. That trailer is nothing but a wall.
Right.
Nothing but a wall with a
Well,
cavity
it's
in
a
it.
decapitation machine. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, it's like the bars you see in the back of a trailer, those steel bars that drop down, they're called ICC bars. But the nickname they were given when they first came out were Maryland bars, because a very famous actress named Marilyn wasn't paying attention, went straight into the back of a truck, and that didn't have that bar system in the back, and it cleared the top of her vehicle clean off. I have seen in my own personal experience where a vehicle was smashed under the back of a trailer, and even with the current safety standards of the rear bumpers, it literally put that bumper behind the engine block against a firewall and smashed everything in between. So the sheer force of hitting one of these trucks at a dead stop is insane. Absolutely insane. All right, go ahead, Pierce.
Future Miss Martin says she missed the big beginning. She wants us to start over.
Oh, absolutely. Just for you. If you just click on that red bar at the bottom, scroll all the way to the left, we'll start right over for you.
Hey, and Jessica in the chat, and I want to say I got to see Jessica again. She's wonderful, and it's nice to have her in our chat. So this is in a very high speed. Florida Turnpike is probably the highest speed road in Florida, I would say, because
it is for sure,
and it's also multi-lane, very populated area. I couldn't think of a worse place to pull this maneuver. Maybe a little further south.
Yeah, and you've got every plate under the sun coming down that stretch of highway, because that leads down, straight along the eastern seaboard, which is a lot of tourist traffic.
To Miami. It's in
a lot of traffic coming down. Yeah, a lot of traffic coming down there to head to Orlando.
Yep. Yeah, people leaving, like when they're going from Orlando to Miami, this is where you would head and take, or if you're just avoiding I-95.
Yeah, Steve knows as well as I know, Florida has 2 seasons: when the old folks show up and when the old folks go home.
Yeah.
So we are the retirement state for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, we can cover some more of the criminal aspect of this, because
we're going to get there, because I have the arraignment video.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and finish this one up.
Okay.
Into the side of the truck. 3 people died. The state of Florida says Singh should not have had a commercial driver's license. They say he was in the country illegally and worked for a trucking company in California. Governor DeSantis says he wants to go after that company too.
We're going to be looking at what our remedies are, or maybe from the victims' families' remedies against a company that didn't seem to care about public safety.
Singh and his brother, who was the passenger in the semi, flew back to California.
Yeah, that's good, because we're going to get clipped by Fox. So let's go ahead and go to his arraignment video, because I've got that, and then we can get started into the law aspect of it. Go over here, go over here.
I'm not hearing any sound from that.
Oh, did I not share audio? I might not have shared audio. Listen, we're not professionals around here. Let's go share screen. I have audio tab shared. Oh, I see what it wants me to do. Okay, hold on.
If you're hearing audio, I am not.
I have audio tab. There's not much talking right at the moment.
Okay.
You hear that now?
No, nothing coming through. Of course, the software gets us again.
You're not getting any at all?
No, none at all.
Oh, for Pete's sake. I even hit share audio. So let's do this. Share screen. Entire screen. Also share audio.
Because says, you muted it, Boomer. Look at the X by the speaker.
All right, tell me if you hear audio now.
Okay, got it now.
Good morning, sir. Please state your full name for the record.
जिंदर सिंह जी अपना पूरा नाम दस्सिया जरा नु
मेरा नाम हरजिंदर सिंह
Pierce is older, and we'll see you in a
My
year,
name is
so you better watch it.
Okay, thank
Who
you,
has
sir.
the gray?
You have been arrested on 2 separate warrants, sir.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जी तो तुम्हारी ना से दो बारी ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਫੜਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਦੋ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵਾਰੰਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ
The first arrest warrant is for 3 counts of vehicular homicide.
ਪਹਿਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ
The second arrest warrant is for 3 counts of manslaughter.
ਤੇ ਦੂਜੇ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਤਿੰਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ
Both arrest warrants affidavits were previously reviewed by a judge.
ਤੇ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਵਾਰੰਟਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸੇ ਫੜਿਆ ਨਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਬੂਤ ਹੈਗੇ ਸੀ ਨਾ ਜੱਜ ਨੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਆ ਸਾਰੇ
Those judges each found probable cause at that time for each of the 6 charges.
Jessica, I told you. Pierce and I need a balcony seat to the left side, a good internet connection. We'll bring our own mics and computers. It'll just be like the 2 old men in the Muppet Show. We're at your wedding.
Well, when's the wedding? And send me an invite. You never know what may happen. That'd be fun.
That'd be
yeah,
great.
Lord of the Reese sent a $2 Rumble rant. He says, "Have y'all seen the videos of random people, mostly Indians, sweeping for the guy and making excuses? It's like they're all reading the same script."
We're gonna get there because I do have that because I did find it was rather odd. It was like a script.
ਜਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਰਾ ਨੂੰ
मेरा नाम हरजिंदर सिंह
My name is Harjinder Singh.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have been arrested on 2 separate warrants, sir.
ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਜੀ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਨਾ ਸੀ ਦੋ ਵਾਰੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਫੜਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਦੋ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵਾਰੰਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ
The first arrest warrant is for 3 counts of vehicular homicide.
ਪਹਿਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ
The second arrest warrant is for 3 counts of manslaughter.
ਤੇ ਦੂਜੇ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਤਿੰਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ
Both arrest warrants affidavits were previously reviewed by a judge.
ਦੋਵਾਂ ਵਾਰੰਟਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸੇ ਫੜਿਆ ਨਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਬੂਤ ਹੈਗੇ ਸੀ ਨਾ ਜੱਜ ਨੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਆ ਸਾਰੇ
Those judges each found probable cause at that time for each of the 6 charges.
All right, so that was the arraignment. And one thing I did find interesting, and I know from many, many years out here, in a situation like this, the cops, if they don't arrest you on the spot, they're going to either ask you to stay in town or find out if you're staying in town and tell you to stay close as they further the investigation. Now, we did find out that a cop actually took these two to a hotel and said, "We need you to stay around town. And, we'll have more questions." they pretty much within very few short hours hopped a plane, went back to Sacramento, where they were intercepted. I personally, this is a question I have for you, Steve, with your criminal end. I can't imagine how they didn't immediately arrest on this because of the situation in which it was. Because you have a truck coming off of a right shoulder across traffic to an illegal turnaround that results in two deaths at that point, a third death later at the hospital. How was this not immediately an arrestable offense?
Well, that's a very good question, and I would only guess that it would be because they did not have the full video from the drive cam.
They
So
did not have the dash cam for several hours.
right,
I think it
so
was
that would be the holdup, because this to me would be an on-site arrest type situation.
okay.
But in the abundance of caution, right? You don't know. I mean, assuming the truck might have, maybe somebody hit the truck and turned it or something. I mean, you really don't know what happened. You have a speculation as a cop, but until you see
Yeah,
the
okay.
telemetry and drive cam, so they're saying, well, we're pulling the drive cam. You stay in this hotel. You're not under arrest. Until we're going to conduct a full and complete. FHP generally does a pretty good job, and they're going to pull.
Yeah,
They're going to be
FHP is
careful, right?
their crash investigators are some of the best in the country.
Yes, some of them are.
No, yeah, no, I trust me, I know.
So, but yeah, so I think that they're being cautious, and I think that's probably a good move and a cautious move for a police officer to withhold judgment until they have all the evidence. And then when these guys took off, of course, that's kind of thrilling. I mean, I was asking the same thing. I was thinking when you were playing this, how is it they got to California? I mean, why weren't they detained? But that's probably what would happen there. So.
Yeah. And the other complicating factor on the scene is neither one of these guys speak English.
Right.
And
Well,
in fact, Harbinger,
can we let's tweeze out some of the different elements here, because as lawyers, this is what we like to do, because there is this angle, this the Trump-driven immigrant thing and the illegals, and then you've got the larger issue of illegals getting CDLs that you've already talked about, and that.
yeah.
But we can take that. You can kind of put that aside in consideration, because that's a separate issue, and this is becoming a political football because of that issue. But let's assume the guy was a legal American driver who had a CDL and pulled this maneuver and killed these people. He would still be subject to the same criminal penalties. It doesn't, to me, it's almost a status crime. The fact that he's illegal doesn't impact the criminal aspect of it so much as it does the political aspect of it.
I agree. However, it was stated that there was no communication with the driver due to the inability to speak with them. And there was also a traffic stop in New Mexico 2 months prior where the officer did not report that they could not speak English. Now, 391.11 of the FMCSA manual, in which, let's explain this. Whoa, God.
Big beer.
This is a FMCSA manual. My camera's going to do that thingy.
Put it against your body like this, and then
This is the FMCSA manual. This is 600 pages of regulations that every truck driver has to carry. You don't have to know them, but this little green book must be on your truck. It is required to be on your truck. And it is literally 600 pages of regulations that the government says we have to follow. So yeah, you think your rules are bad. I got 600 pages of them. 391.11 of general qualifications says, can read and speak English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand any traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and make entries and reports and records. Now, an interesting fact that has come out, the FMCSA released on the California test, which is 12 questions. And I've taken this same test a couple different times. It's 12 questions. It's basically a picture story. It has road signs on it. It has road signs on it. Stop sign, yield sign, no truck sign, low bridge sign, etc. And you have to look at these signs and identify what they are. Out of 12 questions, he got 2 correct. So yeah, and that would be failing.
this is where you're going to find liability on the company generally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. We can talk about that's in the civil aspect and maybe criminally too. But that's an interesting thing. The piercing of the corporate veil and getting to the, aside from this intention. Now, I wanted to address this thing. Grant Rasha says cold-blooded killer stares zero remorse. This is a mistake, and I really want to. A lot of people are assessing his reaction, and his reaction not only during the accident, but his reaction at the thing. And that is always a mistake, because you don't know how you would react in that situation. You don't know what he's thinking. We're trying to read tea leaves. We're trying to read facial expressions. We're trying to read cross-cultural cues. There's a lot of problems with that. I know that we love to talk about and speculate. The guy, he should have been reacting in some other way that we want to say, and whatever reaction he has is in. Or if he's laughing, it's like, how can he laugh at a time like this? Or if he's crying, he's like, oh, those are crocodile tears. I mean, there's no good reaction. And whatever you say, so a lot of that is projection of anger at this guy, legitimate anger. But I really don't want to. I think it's a mistake always to project onto these visual images, these video images, intent or how he's feeling or his remorse or that he's cold-blooded or any of those type things, because it's not. That's unreliable across the board.
And there's multiple.
That's the right reaction, right?
There's multiple stories of World War I where men have gone over the breach time and again to attack the enemy, and just all of a sudden they stop. And it's just your reaction to a horrible situation can be one time and another time. It's
very
the blank stare in the video. I've seen that. I've seen some body language that breaks down on that. I'm not going to play too much into that. I mean, most people would be shocked, but you also become very desensitized. And I can say from my own experience, I've been out here so long, I've seen horrific things. I've seen horrific things, and I don't go, oh my God, I freak out. It sucks. I mean, things I can say. I came up on a wreck one day in the middle of nowhere. Nobody was around. It was a pneumatic truck that flipped over and it was on fire, and we couldn't get the guy out. And some people were there freaking. I was just trying to get the guy out, got him out. Okay, done. Man, this sucks.
And everybody is different. We're different people. And just like Beer was saying, in firefights, the biggest, strongest guys sometimes cry like babies, and the little skinny guy sometimes is the most courageous. And you just don't know how you'd react in this situation, and it doesn't reflect.
Jessica, kick that spammer out, please.
That's a spammer. Anyway, so I think that it's a very, in the body language thing, I agree. It's a BS thing. So I mean, you don't need that in order to condemn the action of this driver, right? The fact that this driver was making a U-turn on the Florida Turnpike is insane, and it's a complete violation of all, and commercial truck drivers, Fondens and the thing. I mean, it's a crazy act. It's a clearly reckless disregard of human life.
Clearly reckless act.
And there's going to be facing a long time in prison because of it.
Oh, that was in Steve's chat, the spammer.
Steve's chat. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean,
and the thing I want to touch on with you is, for those of us who've been out here a while, I mean, the rookie guys, I don't know, some of them get it, some don't. I'm not saying all the rookies are bad, but when you do this job, there's things you assume the risk for. For instance, and this is something you may already know in your civil practice, and something you'll figure out eventually. If something happens in front of me and I swerve and I collect somebody else into that, I'm not responsible for what I did to that other person. And in every state in this country, I'm expected to hold my line. If that means I lock my brakes up and skid straight in a row, that's what I have to do. I've had drivers that worked for me who someone locked up the brakes in front of them. They swerved hard left, they ended up tipping over, crushing another car, and luckily didn't kill a person, but actually hurt them. But the fact that they left their lane of travel to avoid the wreck was enough of an issue that the safety department said they got to go. We can't have
Yeah,
them
but
anymore.
and the thing is there's always this after the fact second guessing, and we really have. The problem is that juries can decide to do whatever they want, and
True.
and there's a lot of. I mean, there, but by the grace of God go I guess is the thing. And all you can do is be the safest driver you can possibly be on the road. And that's not just truckers. I'm especially meaning drivers of passenger vehicles who need to respect trucks and need to understand that it's a different creature. You're sharing the road with people who have a lot more blind spots. It's a lot heavier vehicle. It's a lot more difficult to maneuver. Yeah. And people, they treat trucks as if they're passenger cars. You need you need to pass on the left. You don't pass on the right. You don't linger.
God, I get so tired of this.
You don't pass. You don't linger in people in a truck's blind spot. You don't just hang out on the right-hand side of a truck and cruise along.
For those who don't know, the right side of a truck is a blind spot. The way the mirrors are set up, it's very difficult to see down that side. Not so much on modern trucks now, but it's still considered a blind side when you come up that side. But like Foden said here, driver's responsible no matter what. General public does not have any grasp on how many times a truck driver saves their butt because they make stupid mistakes around trucks. And younger cousins and stuff like that, I always tell them, listen, go to the left lane, pick up a little speed, get around them, get at least a minimal of a trunk length in front before you come back over. Because on the larger square hood trucks, if you get directly in front of it, they can't even see you over that hood. The more curved nose trucks, we have a better chance of seeing you in the front. But you're on average looking at what we kind of refer to as an 80,000 pound freight train. It takes a long time to get that stopped. And people are very reckless around trucks. It's always funny because I always say, oh, trucks cause so many accidents. The national average is cars actually cause the accidents with trucks. It's not the other way around. But it pays better when you blame the truck.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's because they carry big insurance, and that's a big problem because people know that. And there's another blind spot that I wasn't aware of until I had a case with it, and that is there's a blind spot in front of the front in the right mirror and the hood. So when you're on, I have a case where there's a car that's lingering right there, sort of by the right front tire of the truck. And he's just sitting there, and it's in front of the mirror, and the drive cam is real high, and you can see the car from the drive cam, but the driver cannot because he's looking across his hood, and so he's got a mirror, and the car is in front of the mirror, but still within line, and he guy's lingering, and the guy moves over like this and knocks him because
he got a 6 foot high, hood and a 4 foot high car. You can't see that car sitting there. That's why a lot of trucks have nose mirrors now to be able to see down in that spot.
Yeah.
That particular company here, White Star Carriers. Go here.
Yeah, the legal minded friends Karen Cole says big ships have the same problems and they can't stop quickly. That's interesting. We have a pilot in here. We're talking about shipping. Yeah, it's interesting, the different modalities. There's commonalities there, isn't there?
So White Star Trucking is a company in which he worked for, and FMCSA keeps a record of every single trucking company. If you have a US DOT number, and you'll see that number on the side of a truck, it'll say US DOT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the side.
This is cool, man. You know your stuff. I'm a whiskey. You're cool.
Awesome. So White Star Trucking in the past 24 months had 70 total inspections. They had 47 vehicle inspections, 66 driver inspections, and 1 hazmat inspection. What the 1 hazmat inspection means is that particular cargo on that truck was a hazmat load. So they have to mark that it's hazmat because that requires a special permit for the truck to carry. There's a lot of extra conditions with doing a hazmat load.
Yeah, that could be as much as 1 pallet of perfume, though, too.
It has to be 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, 1,000 pound pallet of perfume.
Anything under 1,000 pounds doesn't require hazmat placarding or tagging. So it had to be a minimum of and that could be anything from butane cans to refill your lighter. It could be
Snow
perfume.
globes.
Yeah, actually, snow globes do qualify.
Yep.
We could over 1,000 pounds. That's
Yeah,
my
I know. I have to go through all that particular training myself.
So out of the last 24 months, out of 47 vehicle inspections, they had 11 vehicles put out of service, or OOS as it's referred to in the industry, out of service. This means there was something so wrong with that truck, whether it be bad brakes, bad tires, an air leak, something that wasn't get this fixed the next time you stop. You're staying here until this is fixed. That's what that means. That gave them an out of service rate of 23.4%. The national average is 22.26. So they were above the national average for out of service for vehicles. They had 66 driver inspections. Now, what this means is that they're checking the driver's license. They're checking to make sure he has his med card. Every truck driver is required to carry what's called a DOT medical card. The longest term you can get on a medical card is 2 years, and that means you're in pretty good health. Then it goes to 1 year, and then if you have diabetes or blood pressure issues or whatever else, it can go as low as 3 to 6 months. And then you have to go back to a doctor, get checked again, get reissued a new medical card. These medical cards have to be turned in to the state, and now I think next month it starts, they go into a national database so that if a state trooper pulls you over the side of the road, he can see without you handing him that physical card that you have been DOT medically certified to drive. If you lose your medical certification, you can't drive. I have good friends of mine, 2 people were mentors to me for my career, who both of them cannot drive a truck anymore because their health got to the point that they couldn't maintain a medical card. Even though they're fully capable, something could happen behind the wheel, so they're just not allowed to drive anymore. Out of 66 driver inspections, 8 were placed out of service. Now, this could be anything from they violated hours of service, like that screen I showed you earlier. Could be they didn't have a valid license. Those are pretty much the main ones. That's a 12.1% out of service percentage for White Star Trucking, the company in which Harbinger Singh worked for. The national average is 6.67. Now, I wasn't able to find it, but I did see in a different cast where someone had, and I don't know why I can't find it, but it did show that a good portion of these 8 out of services where they didn't have a driver's license, which is mind-blowing to me.
Well, there was one in Texas, like within the past 2 months, that the guy was here on an expired tourist visa, and he was driving a truck and got in an accident and killed people. So there's a lot of issues just there.
I remember that one. Yep. In fact, there's a tunnel right now in Wyoming that is still shut down because of a truck wreck inside the tunnel that started a fire that did so much damage to the interior of the tunnel on 80 that they don't even know if they're going to be able to rebuild it without completely ripping the core out and doing it again, because the heat inside the tunnel was so bad from the truck fire, it actually caused the water droplets inside of the concrete to explode. It was just blasting concrete off the wall. Yeah, Bowden, you're right. Terrell, Texas was Hope Transport. And there's still information in that wreck coming out. That's another one that's just crazy. So we've got 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter. We've got 3 counts of murder. Do you think this will actually go to trial, or you think he'll just go ahead and plead out on this?
That's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. I think, I don't know. That's a good question. Let's say that it's probably a plea. He's probably going to have a public defender. And I don't really know what the defense is, assuming the state appropriately charges him, and that's the thing that the states, from a state attorney's perspective, right, from a prosecutorial perspective, these are the kind of cases they tend to overcharge because there's a lot of political pressure on them. So for example,
push on this case.
Right. So if they charge him with 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter, that's pretty much it. And that's going to carry a large mandatory prison sentence, because there's something in Florida called the score sheet, Criminal Punishment Code score sheet. And one of the little check boxes is if your crime results in death, it has a very large point score that results in prison. And here you're going to have 3 deaths. So you're going to have a very large mandatory prison sentence on any plea. And so if the state is smart, they will charge 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter, and there'll be a score sheet. And that's, now the temptation though is for the prosecutor to say charge what we had earlier, charge first degree murder and get the death penalty. And we're going to make a point here, right? And they're going to create, and that's overreaching is where they really get into problems, because first of all, it's not first degree murder. And if you remember the Casey Anthony case, that was one where the state overcharged. You know, if they had charged a different charge, they may have gotten her, but they didn't. They overcharged because it was a political case, and they wanted to make hay. They wanted to show how tough they were, and we're not getting them getting away with anything, and blah 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 blah. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they overcharge, and then they got their neck sticking out over the thing. And then of course so that's where I would think the danger lies. If they appropriately charge, it should be a plea. And then the judge would go guidelines to max, and he'll probably get more time than he will be able to live in prison.
Now, another thing in digging into this that I found incredibly interesting, because this is a problem in the trucking industry that we've known about for a while, but the general public just doesn't see it because it's not front page news. But this guy went to a CDL school in Washington called Skyline CDL School and Truck Driving Academy, which coincidentally is like a lot of these companies that have popped up, they cater to foreign drivers. And this has been a huge issue. Bonehead Truckers is a big channel in the trucking community, and he's been really boasting about this hard lately. This trucking company was shut. This Skyline CDL school was shut down because they were bribing CDL test officials to pass drivers. And this is something that's been going on for a while. In fact, it doesn't even go on just with CDL schools. It also goes on with medical doctors.
Well, I'm going to throw out a crazy question here. Could you sue the school for passing this guy? I mean, is there liability? Is there civil liability?
That's where I was gonna go with this with you. Because of the fact that we know he went to this school, the school was busted and shut down for the fact that they were caught paying off examiners to pass these students. They were falsifying records, which was all proven in an investigation to pass these drivers. If they can link him to, which we know he did go to that school, if they can link him to that school during the time period, could civilly go after this truck driving school.
That school was shut down twice, actually. Once temporarily because they were caught doing something, and once permanently because of this.
In fact, I had an image, which I lost it when I lost the other one, but they were literally bundling money together and putting a birth date on a Post-it note, sticking it to the bundle of money, and then sticking it in an envelope, mailing it to the CDL inspector, CDL tester, and he would correspond that birth date on the Post-it note with the driver he had in front of him, because that was the money that the driver had given the school to give to him to pay him off to pass their test, which is mind-blowing. And as someone who used to train drivers, I'm just like, what? You don't put these people on the road that aren't properly trained. Especially when we make life and death decisions every day. I mean, I'm sure if Bowden was up here, Bowden could tell you in the last 12 hours of his driving that he made a decision that if he hadn't, somebody would be hurt. It's the way it is. It's not, it's part of life for us. Cars are stupid. People don't, not so much stupid. People aren't taught, even driving schools for standard driver's license these days, don't teach the importance of sharing the road. And everybody's always in a hurry these days. Everybody wants to get wherever they're going as fast as possible.
Yep. Well, this is interesting because I don't know. I mean, it goes back to my old prepare book and about the the corruption in our society is such that it's like lies become part of our endemic. It's in the culture. It's embedded in the culture, and it's a real problem. And and when we're talking about lies, we're talking about corruption. Like, well, it's not going to hurt. It's somebody gets paid off, and once you let this corruption in, you let the corruption into your own heart, and we let it into our society, and it's top to bottom. We're drowning in lies in our society, and this is a reflection of that. I don't know if you've ever read the book Atlas Shrugged, but Atlas Shrugged has sort of a commentary on if you let those lies go unchained, you're going to have planes crashing and trains crashing and things and all these dangers in the society collapsing because we're just thinking that it's an image, it's a word, but it's a lie. It's a corruption, and the corruption, we need to fight against that. Every good-hearted person, which should be all of us, should be against these type things. And I don't know. I mean, I just think it comes from individuals and individuals' hearts. I'm sort of making a broader philosophical point.
Yeah.
But
No. So Skyline School was found in an investigation to employing unqualified instructors, some of which lacked valid licenses or spoke little English, ignoring federal English proficiency rules, which requires drivers to understand road signs and communicate with officials, falsifying training records and failing to document students' hours or skills. And they were steering students to Hodson, even if it required a 4-hour drive from Vancouver to Arlington. And this is also where they found the money was being sent in bundles with the driver's date of birth so that they knew which drivers
when was this? This was 2024.
Their license was formally filed and lost in 2024.
Shizzy Wiznut raid. I got a Shizzy Wiznut raid. Thank you, Shizzy.
Oh, nice. Hey, Shizzy. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. And so the school was shut down. The school was shut down. So this
isn't the only school in the country. This is just because it directly relates to Hardinger Singh. He attended this school. It's far from the only one. This has become a growing epidemic in the country of these schools. There's one in Chicago that was just highlighted that boasts about the fact that they teach you how to drive a truck in 5 different languages.
But see, the thing is it happens in higher ed too. I mean, people are selling these college kids, degrees in DEI, and they've got hundreds of $1,000s in college debt, and they think they actually know something. Yeah. I mean, that's a fraud too. But it's like, well, what's the real world consequence of that? Well, we have a bunch of stormtroopers on the left who don't know how to make money. All they know how to do is propagandize. Here you have a similar analogy in the trades, where you have people selling basically falsity, lying, get the credential. It's credentialism.
I think it was a higher level because we don't put road signs, even like, being a Floridian, we have more LED marquee boards on the highway than probably any state in the country. Now, most of them say silver alert, but we have if you know, you know.
Usually means a dad grabbed his child in violation of a custody order. That's usually what it is.
Well, with purple alert, silver alert. I think they're starting to come up with another one.
I don't know what all the alerts are. I try to avoid them.
I got a question on if this will this make CDLs push towards a mandatory direction, which they kind of quasi are now, but you think they're going to push them towards being a national license rather than state issue licenses?
I
know that's kind of a political question.
It is, but I also think that would require an act of Congress to do that.
Yeah.
Because driver's licenses are controlled by states. Now there's a federal standard for CDLs.
Yeah.
So they may be able to sidewing their way into that. But I don't know how that would work because states would argue it, you're taking our power away from us. Then you've got a big Supreme Court battle over whether or not the federal government can take over CDLs in and of themselves. Yeah. I'd be interested to try to find somebody who could actually dig into that, because there's a lot of red tape in that.
Oh yeah.
Because it is interesting that as a CDL driver, there are certain things that are required on the federal level. Hazmat certification comes on the federal level. You get your hazmat endorsement from the state, but your testing and your clearance to actually move hazmat material comes on a federal level. Same thing with ports. Port of entries require what's called a TWIC card, TWIC card. That requires the federal government to say that you can actually do that. Getting on and off military bases requires a TWIC card on most bases, but it requires the federal government to clear that driver to be able to get on and off that base, not the state. State can't say, Whiskey 77 from Florida can drive onto a military base in Utah. The federal government has to okay that. So, and those are endorsements that come with the licensing. So that's an interesting argument. Honestly, as bad as the government screws up FMCSA and truck driving regulations anymore, I don't know, because we deal with so many we literally over the last 8 years had so many regulation changes that just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that are insane. Right down to part of our e-log system is an option called personal conveyance. And that means we're running an errand for ourselves. It used to be if you weren't advancing the position of the load, then you could use personal conveyance. Or if you got caught in inclement weather or you needed a safe haven, then you could use personal conveyance. And they said, no, you can't do that. Then they said you can't move the load whatsoever. And then it came, you can't do this. Well, if you go to here, you have to go back to the point of origin. So it's been a constant fight for years over that. And it goes back and forth, right down to the government controls what's called DEF fluid. And you'll see this at your gas stations. Diesel emission fluid. They mandated it on trucks. It's a horrible nightmare on trucks. It does tens of thousands of dollars of damage to trucks. They say it's better for the environment, but EPA can show you that the roadsides pre-DEF fluid were green and plush, and now they're withering because it's ammonia. It's basically urea that comes out of your smokestack.
Honestly, there's not legally, but there are people using DEF for weed control.
Yeah. And we're blowing it on our exhaust pipes because the government says it's a good thing. Last I knew, plants like carbon.
The chat is just killer right now, man. I'll tell you, these are some educated people who are making some really good discussions. And I'll say that it's tough because, I mean, as you were talking about earlier, the trucking industry is very heavily regulated. The CDL drivers are very heavily regulated. What we're talking about is, okay, well, because this guy does this idiot move, let's add some more regulations on it. Let's do some more stuff, right? And it's almost like chasing after defeating human imperfection, right? And I don't know if more government regulations. It's already a very heavily regulated industry. It's like the laws that exist should be enforced. Like you were saying, this guy shouldn't have been doing what he's doing anyway. He shouldn't have been licensed. He wasn't passing the test. The credential that exists wasn't being honored. So it's this credentialism. I don't know. I mean, there may not be a great solution to this. I do think a
lot of this foreign driver push came in when politics was screaming, we have a driver shortage. We never had a driver shortage. That is such malarkey.
You're the second person I've heard say that. Tell me a little bit about your perspective there.
Well, let's use an example. A Florida trucking company, Carol Fuller, just went under 200 plus drivers. All of a sudden get a call, hey, we're done. By saying we have a driver shortage, being able to bring in immigrants to drive trucks, it put a flood of drivers on the market. Drivers run by what's called a freight rate. So if Acme Corporation needs a load driven from Los Angeles, California to Orlando, Florida, they're going to say, okay, I'm just going to use round numbers here. We're going to say, it's a 2,000 mile run. Well, the company's going to say, okay, I need to cover my insurance, my fuel, my maintenance costs, and my driver. I need to make $5 a mile on that load. So $5 a mile, 2,000 miles, this is what your rate needs to be. Well, when you flood the market with a lot of drivers, everybody's itching to get a load. So now that shipper can go, well, I only want to do it for $3 a load, and this guy says he'll do it for $3 a lot, $3 a mile. So he gets the lower freight. Now, without trying to get too political on things, the immigrant drivers, the Hindis, the Sikhs, and I do know some of them were very good guys, but it's just the way it works because a lot of them are California based. They will haul it at the lowest price possible because they have the lowest overhead cost. They pay their drivers less. They don't maintain their equipment. Their insurance are fly by night. Their DOT numbers are fly by night. By fly by night, I mean some of these companies, and this is well documented, they'll have 2 different DOT numbers. So they'll drive X amount of hours on one DOT number and literally write another one on the truck and keep going. Log out of their ELD, log in under a new name, and keep going. And they'll literally put 4 drivers in a truck, which is highly illegal. And these 4 drivers would just take turns driving. There was just a video recently by a gal on Facebook who has a Facebook account. She was backed into it, a shipper, by a group of Indians. 4 guys climbed out of the truck. They did significant damage to her truck. She needed a police report. So she said, I got to call the police. After they argued with her back and forth about calling the police, oh, we'll just give you cash. We'll just give you cash. She said, no, the police are coming. 2 of them took off in a hurry because they knew if the cops showed up and there were 4 of them in the truck, they were in some trouble because it's so highly illegal. There's that company unconfirmed at this point, but it looks like they've already opened up another DOT number. But unfortunately, the FMCSA website hasn't updated it quite yet. But it looks like they've already done it, which is a whole nother illegal thing because years ago, you used to be able to buy a DOT number. You could trash that number. I don't mean by racking up inspections that failed, having out of service violations, etc., where you brought your FMCSA score down to a certain point that you couldn't do business anymore. So they would just go buy what was called a legend number, or there's several other terms for it, a heritage number, a number that somebody bought years ago and didn't use, so it's clean. It shows it was established in, say, 1997.
Yeah,
and
same
it has
thing's
no
done
violations on it.
Same thing's done with LLCs too.
Yeah. So they buy another DOT number and just go, oh, now we're this company. You know, we're not John David Trucking. We're now David John Trucking under a different DOT number. FMCSA made a ruling.
I gotta say, I'm really enjoying you're really, this is fascinating, and I'm learning about the trucking industry. It's fascinating because I don't represent anybody of that sort. I mean, we've got some pretty quality trucking companies that we're representing and some good drivers.
Yeah, you told me you got some pretty big companies.
Yeah, and I've always been impressed. Our drivers blow me away with what they've done and their records and how professional they are and how attentive they are and watching the videos. So you're showing me the other side, and this is why it's very fact dependent, right? It's very individualized. And when we're talking about, you know, this driver, it's like, is this guy a reflection of all truckers? No. Is he a reflection of all foreign truckers? No. He's a reflection of a particular, the worst part of the system, the corruption in the system.
But it's not a small part anymore. And that's the thing that's very concerning out here, and the rest of the country starting to see an eye into. This is not a small percentage anymore. It's been a growing trend, and it got way worse during the last 3 administrations. It grew quite a bit. And here we go, J-Rock, what you got? Well, autonomous trucks are coming, but they're a long ways away. As Steve can tell you, he had a guy on who's doing autonomous trucking, but it's completely off the highway. It's in a mining, I guess you call it.
It's actually a very large private thing in West Texas, but it is coming. But you know, it was interesting that they're trying to expand that to the long, boring routes, right? Which and the truck drivers who are, you know, the hazmat drivers, the wide load drivers, the advanced trucking drivers. He said those are very challenging for autonomous trucking. The autonomous trucking thrives in predictability, and that's what. But you know, I mean, I'm certain it'll come someday.
They haven't even got that down for trains yet. So I mean,
No, and I do find it funny, and I do watch the technology. I did a lot of looking into Teslas. I went to a few Tesla day stuff with their Tesla trucks, and you used a very key phrase there that I want to point out. The predictable. I've heard that term before. Even on my simplest drive, the unpredictable happens. And I don't see the computer software to the point yet where it can predict. Because for instance, if you're in a situation where an oncoming driver on the wrong side of the highway, which happens far more than you think, how's the autonomous truck going to react to that? Is it just going to stop and become an obstacle in the middle of the road? Dallas traffic. For anybody around the Texas area, you know how Dallas traffic is. An autonomous truck is going to freak out and fry its own circuit boards trying to get to that town. A situation imagine an autonomous truck trying to go to Orlando at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday in July.
I-4 is insane.
Yeah. I mean,
and some of the I'd say the incremental advances have helped the commercial drivers. I mean, there's reactive, there's steering, there's lane change, there's a kind of an autopilot type thing.
We can get into a whole argument about that.
But there are some technologies that do assist drivers, and backing warnings, cameras. There are advances in driving that can assist drivers.
Camera systems, I absolutely agree with you on. The camera system I have on my truck, I've grown to absolutely love, because I can keep it up on a tablet where I can see it. It sees better at night than I do. It sees better in the rain than I do. Because a lot of drivers are really bad about turning on their headlights in rain situations. My cameras give me an ability to see down the sides of my trailer a whole lot better. Fortunately, with what I do,
garbage. So it's interesting because you're the driver. I'm sitting there talking. So you tell me, which systems do you think are really advantageous and which ones are garbage from a driver's perspective?
Forward radar, for those in chat, forward radar systems, they can detect an obstacle in front of you and apply the brakes. They're not on all trucks. They're getting better. Now, the earlier systems, they were horrendous. If you were going underneath an overpass, if you caught a shadow just right, it would literally slam the brakes.
But now
that's gotten better over time.
There's smoke and fog situations where that sort of stuff could be life-saving.
That stuff faults smoke and fog because it can't see.
Because I had a case with a smoke and fog case up in North Florida, and it was horrific. And so, doesn't LiDAR look through smoke and fog?
Not all systems are LiDAR, but I got to tell you, the old school driver in me is telling you, if a driver had to use the computer braking system in fog, then he was driving too fast to begin with. Wasn't driving safe.
But you've got smoke areas where smoke crosses, and all of a sudden you're blinded. You don't even see it coming. It's just boom. It's there. Nighttime, darkness, and this was on I-10. I don't know if you know I-10 up in North Florida. Oh, yeah. And there was smoke crossing the road, and all of a sudden it's blackout time, and there's a obstacle. It was a horrible crash, and I think that there's room. I do believe there's room for extra safety. Well, tell me, what other safety systems do you think are a big plus in trucking?
I've never had to use it, and unfortunately, with what I do, I'm exempt from all the radar systems. Because I do oversize, so I have to cross the lines a lot of times even to maintain a lane, being so wide. But the side radar systems, they're getting better. There's blind spot radar systems now. If you drive along the passenger side of a truck, you'll see a black disc, about twice the size as a hockey puck, right about where the door is. That's the side radar system. That tells you when someone's in that spot. They're getting better. But at the same time, they'll send a driver off his rocker, because if you're in traffic, like for instance, traffic, I-4, 95, people that run up and down 75 through Ohio, St. Louis, areas like that, Chicago, where you got that car in that lane next to you, because you're not going to ride that right lane because everybody's getting on and off. You're going to be in the number 2 lane, number 3 lane. That car's pacing you, which cars love to pace trucks. Stop pacing trucks. You don't understand how dangerous that is. One of those tires, a truck tire holds 110 pounds of air pressure. When they blow, it's like a grenade. And if you're there, I've literally seen tread on a tire come off of a truck and go through a windshield of a car. People just don't understand how violent those are.
By the way,
Side radar's getting better.
Fondant in the chat, he's agreeing with you. I'm sitting there spouting off. See, I don't know.
Yep.
I'm a law guy, right? I'm not a trucker. He's in there. He's cheering you on. Everything you're saying, he's like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, whiskey's right. Whiskey's right.
Yep.
So
the systems are getting better, but at the same time, as great as the systems are, and I swore I'd never drive an automatic truck. You'd put me in my grave before I'd ever drive one. Now I drive one. I've grown to love it. I've got friends of mine that are probably going to text me in a moment and go, I knew you loved that truck. Because automatics have gotten so much better. But the safety systems have allowed the trucking companies to stupefy the job. And now it requires less skill. Back in the early days, you had, 10 gear, 13 gear trucks. You had 15 gauges on the dash you had to monitor. Now you don't have any gears to deal with. You've got half the gauges because you've got a computer on the truck that'll flash a message if something's wrong. So it's made it simpler in one way of looking at it, but in another way, it's made it so simple that, for lack of a better term, less educated, less skilled people can do the job. And that isn't necessarily a good thing. So that's where we're at. Do I see trucks being way more technologically advanced in another 10 years? Absolutely. Because I know what they were 10 years ago, and I know what they were 10 years before that. I remember when we were still running paper logs, which we finally called coloring books, and you kept 2 of them because depending on what time of day it was or where you were in your week is which one you handed to the state trooper. And if you handed the wrong one, then you had a lot of explaining to do. Because beautiful thing about a coloring book is you could rip out the page and start over. Let's get back on topic, though. Hard as you're saying, someone in chat earlier, I don't remember who it was, brought up the GoFundMe count that is going around for this. Oh my gosh. I did not see this till today, and I was mind blown at this. There we go. Change.org. Did I lose the video? No. There we go. Here we go. This came out today, and I was just mind blown. Let's go with Twitter. There we go. Share audio. Next screen.
No sound here.
Oh, no sound again. No sound again.
How in the world is there no sound? I shared audio. I'm telling you what.
Stream
We even did make it must be. Emily D. Baker's working on a new streaming software. Hopefully she gets that done soon.
That's a year out.
It's interesting because this is sort of a national thing, and I will say that if you're coming at it from an Indian perspective, I'm sure their laws and their criminal laws are very different than ours.
Yeah.
Well, because their accident rate's incredibly high there.
Yeah. So when they see it, they see a brother, one of their people, coming to our country, and then the hammer's coming down, and it's not understandable. So I mean, there's a cultural divide here that
but the chatter earlier commented that it sounded very scripted, and that's why I pulled this up, because if you'll notice through the next few, which hopefully the audio plays this time. We got audio now?
No. Yeah, well, and I ran into this when I actually did a stream on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, because I have friends on both sides of that. I have friends from Ukraine, I have friends from Russia, very good friends, and I admire both countries, and I'm sort of on the Trump side in that I just want to see the killing stop, because there's some beautiful countries, some beautiful people, and they don't need to be killing each other, right? I mean, they need to stop the war, they need to stop the killing. And as soon as I started talking about that, boy, the bots started hitting. It wasn't real, like it wasn't bots. It was like people, propaganda centers in Russia, and that were just like bombarding me because I'm talking about this issue and I'm not just completely bought into the Russian side. So all of a sudden and I mean, it was bizarre. It was really bizarre that this topic, you know, these things. And so right now the chat and the media, that's why I like seeing my friends like Yellow, Orange, Red here and Jessica and people like that, Fond. And those are people I know. Those are people that I trust. I know that they're real people, but there's so much propaganda out there. And it's not just like bots. It is people on keyboards that are paid to push the party line for some interest group. And so like they'll put on the comments section, they'll get in your chats, and they're trying to influence people. It's really ridiculous. It's corrupted. It's corrupted because you used to think, well, the chats are real people. No, they're not. Sometimes there's false. So a lot of the videos are out there are false. You know, YouTube and X, everything's out there is a lie. It's unbelievable. We're drowning in lies. Again, back to the theme.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Beers and I were talking earlier, and he pointed out that primetime news is that everything below a boomer doesn't watch it anymore.
Right. And thank God, because the craziest people are the older people who watch CNN all day.
Yeah.
And they're insane because they're being propagandized.
Even in my own family, I'll get a call like, hey, did you see this on ABC? And I'm like, no, I don't watch it. Where do you get your news from? I get my news from the actual documents. And like somebody I argue back and forth with over politics, like, well, the news said this. Well, stop watching the news. Well, how do you know this about that? Because I read the actual legal document. Hey, here's a link to this guy. He actually read the document. Hey, here's a link to this Supreme Court decision. This is what the breakdown is from this attorney on this. Well, how do you know that attorney is right? Because they read the actual document on the screen with us. Like, we learned why it was written this way. Like,
and that's why I like, you know, talking with you guys, because this is, you know, we're having a discussion. We're trying to figure these things out for ourselves. You're showing the videos, we're learning, we're watching like fundraising. We're sorting these things out in sort of a truthful discussion. Yeah, Dan Rather, what a scum.
Well, that's back when news had integrity.
Yeah,
I
don't even know.
But
I mean,
even
at this point,
even Walter Cronkite was skewed.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. We really need to flush the lies out of the system. And first thing you do is stop watching the mainstream media because they're full of it.
Well, each channel is not even getting a million people concurrently watching, and it's prime demographics 25 to 55, and they're getting 100,000 in the prime demographic. I mean, so that's.
Well, I want to know who Hunter Brooks. Good to see you.
J-Rock, I swear. Wait, I thought ChatGPT was your girlfriend.
Yeah, it's funny because he's talking about rackets and streams. I don't know what that was, but yeah, I don't know what happened there. Let's see, what happened to the wreck in Florida? So yeah, back to the wreck in Florida. So where else do you want to go with this? Because there's a criminal side and there's a civil side. Hey, potentially criminals here too. Good to see you. Yeah, this is a really interesting trucking stream. I'm really learning a lot from Whiskey here on this. This is fascinating. I love talking to you guys. I mean,
goddamn, I love sandwiches. Oh, hello. Fancy seeing you here tonight, chat. Good evening, everybody. How are you?
What is that?
Well, you know, as far as criminal, so far we've got 3 charges of murder, 3 charges of manslaughter. Probable cause hearing is next week, so we'll see what comes out of that.
It's tough because the guy I'll throw in also. This is an interesting element that I'll bet you nobody's going to talk about, and that is that there's also an international relations side of this. Because
I don't think India is going to butt in whatsoever on this one.
Oh, I don't know about that. No, the State Department, the Indian embassy. Here's an issue because the translators, they can assist with his defense. They can assist with translation services.
Well,
There's a
he'll
lot
have
of,
to have a
and,
translator.
and the state attorney's office should be notifying the embassy. They're dealing with foreign nationals. That, America does not respect international laws like they should. They really need to honor the embassy, the treaty requirements of notifying the embassy that they have a foreign national charged, and to hook the defense attorneys up with those services. When I represented a guy named Virgilio Aguilar Mendez, I don't know if you remember.
I remember that case. Yep.
Yeah, and he was a Honduran, and he
Yes.
didn't speak. He spoke a language called Mam.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
I
rare
remember this
dialect.
one. I remember this one.
Yeah, and he was the most innocent kid I've ever represented.
Poor
And he
kid was just sitting in the grass talking to his mom. It was the craziest
just
crap
talking
ever.
to his mom on his phone, and this cop comes
Just
up,
crazy.
starts harassing him, and
Yeah.
throws him down and tases him 6 times and locks him up. And then the cop dies of a heart attack like 8 minutes after the arrest.
Yep.
And then they charge my guy with murder. And it became, and a lot of my websites like Breitbart, stuff like that, were all like, another illegal kills the cop. And it was so not that. And this kid was the most innocent.
When it
kid
came down the grapevine that you were on that case, a bunch of us were like, "Oh, thank God, somebody's there to do something," because that was a messed up case.
It was me, my buddy Rosemary Peoples, and I got my buddy Phil Arroyo to handle the civil side. And but it took Jose Baez to come in and threaten that we're going to have an internationally broadcast jury trial, because they weren't going to drop it. The guy was in custody for like almost 300 days. It was really wrong what they did, but that was a political case. And but what I'm saying though is that we got the embassy involved, and the Guatemalan, it was Guatemala, the Guatemalan Center too got involved, and they were very helpful is getting translations, and so we understood what he was saying, understood the cultural, because the kid came from such a poor and rural area. They didn't even have a police force. They had a tribal council. And there was also a genocide from there where the government had come down. So there was a real distrust of police. He thought that policeman was robbing him. It's like, and so it was very, so I'm just saying that these assets, the defense attorneys need to be on top of that too, and make sure that they're tapping in so that the cultural differences are translated. Just like you said, the facial expressions. I think this fellow might be a Sikh. Is he a Sikh? Yeah.
He is. When he has his turban off, he has it knot here. That's a traditional way they do the head, and then wrap, and has a knot on top of the knot.
Yeah, Fondant says he was at that Super 8 right there. Yeah, the kid was he had been working all day, and he was actually legal because he had the papers, he had his document. If ICE had stopped him, they would have let him go. So I'm back to that. I'm sorry, that was a huge case for me, and I'm really,
well, we'll see what happens with the probable cause here goes on. I experience telling me that he's probably going to plea out on this. I don't see this going to trial.
I agree. That's probably true. I'm saying there is a possibility sometimes, and I'm just throwing it out, that there can be diplomatic trades. Yeah. So when somebody does something, like if we've got something with India and they make some deal at the State Department level, that can happen. I'm not saying right now, but in the years in the future, right? Or in the future.
I think there's going to be some battle there. We'll see what happens because of the way California.
There's a big political overlay here. DeSantis is going to do huge. He's going to push this issue because it's a winner for him politically, right?
Now, the other hat you wear, and one of the other reasons that as soon as this popped up, we decided to do this. I went, call Steve. 1-800-CALL Steve. It's kind of like calling Sam, but much nicer. The civil side of this, because I've had some experience with this and stuff that I've had to deal with when I managed a trucking company. And otherwise, you've got 3 wrongful death suits here. They'll go after both him personally. They'll go after White Star Trucking. White Star Trucking is broke and closed down. They no longer have an operating US DOT number.
Yeah, but
their assets would be locked down.
They have an insurance policy.
They have insurance. More than likely, all their trucks are on payment, so you can't go after those. So, but you've got millions in wrongful death claims, especially in the state of Florida, where wrongful death claims kind of get real expensive in recent history in Florida.
Yeah, Florida is one of the most expensive states insurance-wise, and trucking companies pay.
I know.
We have a trucking company who was reporting they pay more in insurance premiums than they do in fuel costs, You think about it, all trucks do is burn fuel all day, right?
Yeah.
And they're paying
Yeah.
more for every gallon of gas they're burning. They're paying more money for insurance.
You know, Steve, every day I'm on Discord with Beers and a few of my other friends, and every day I ask who wants to give up their credit card to fuel my tank that day, and not a single one of them would chip up. I even offered a
Yeah.
trade. I'll pay for their tank, they pay for mine. They won't do
Yeah.
it.
Well, but let's talk about, because this is an interesting topic, because obviously everybody and their mother and even defense attorneys would agree that the proper party is the mandatory insurance company for the CDL driver and the company, right? So they're going to have $1 million policy, and it's required under the law, and they're going to tender their limits. Say, here's your $1 million, right? Take your $1 million and run. I mean, that they will be so quick to pay, that will be funny. The plaintiff's attorneys are going to want to up that, and they're going to want to find other liabilities. So here's a question for you, and you, ladies and gentlemen, in the viewing audience, because everybody has sympathy for these dead families, right? They're clearly the victims. They're clearly entitled to whatever monies are out there. But let's think about this now. What about the owner of the trailer that the truck is carrying? What if they've got a different owner? What about the stuff that's in the trailer? Should that company be available? What about the stuff?
I wish we had
trucking
still
company
had legal
itself.
devices around for that, because like shipping.
What about the company who hired them to ship?
Well, no, hold on.
Go ahead.
The cargo itself is going to be covered under the insurance policy because you have to carry cargo coverage. So the value of that load.
The shipper who brokered or bought the load and said, I want to use this truck and I'm going to save money. What about the broker who brokered the load? I mean, what about the chain of I mean, you can start getting a little creative, and all of a sudden.
Are you talking about who you could go after civilly?
Yes.
Or the civil suits that could go after them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the shipper's not going to be able to civilly go after them because they insured the load. And the driver had to carry the insurance. Like if I pick up a load of, say, worth, which is not uncommon for me, pick up a $1 million piece of cargo, I have to have a policy that covers that cargo for what the manufacturer deems it's worth. So if something happens, they're covered. And I have to pay the deductible on that.
You're talking about loss of the cargo. That's a Carmack Amendment issue. All right. I'm talking about, what about liability civilly for the deaths to the shipper?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no, because I think they'd be protected.
How?
Because their cargo wasn't responsible for the accident.
Yes, but how about this theory? Okay, I'm a creative plaintiff's lawyer, and I say yes, but you were such a cheapskate that you negligently selected this carrier, which you know was bad.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now I can bring that case, and it survives dismissal.
In which
now
I can
guarantee
you from
shipper.
I can guarantee you from experience, whatever cargo they were hauling it for much cheaper than a lot of other companies would. I mean, that's become a big problem in the industry. Is they lowball the crap on the freight.
Look how easily you looked up all the problems of that company.
Yeah.
That information is also available to the shipper, right?
Oh yeah, that's all publicly accessible. Yep.
So I mean, a creative plaintiff's lawyer will start expanding that circle into areas that you would never believe.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. If you hadn't used a lesser hauler. Yeah, because I mean there are certain companies.
But here, I want you to understand. J-Rock says, Steve, that requires a boatload of incidents to assert negligent hiring. No, it doesn't.
But they have that.
No, it doesn't. They do have that.
They do have because they showed that all of their out of service violations were above the national average. So you have that. All shippers out there, like you have the manufacturer, aka the shipper, you have a broker, and then you have the trucking company.
Right.
A lot of times, manufacturer will go to a broker or they'll post it to a board, and then a broker will pick it up. Broker will broker it to a truck driver. Broker's a middleman; he gets a cut.
Right.
Now, a lot of manufacturers do have a minimal standard for drivers, where their score has to be this good to be able to haul my cargo. For example, cargo I haul. you have to have a very clean record and good experience to be able to do what I do. Joe Schmo, who just came out of Swift Driving Academy, can't do what I do because he can't get insured for it. The manufacturers aren't going to take the risk with it. Even though they're insured for the load, they're like, I'm not taking the risk. So yeah, there is that, and that's a pretty creative angle because I could have.
But you're just asked about it. So let's talk about what the broker does in the shipping industry. You have a shipper who contacts a broker. The broker selects the motor carrier, right? So does the broker have liability for selecting this? Does the shipper? Does the broker? Can I sue the broker? And if you can sue the broker, now there's a split. And actually, this is where we can get into real worth. And actually, I'm thinking about writing a law review article on this very topic. And there's something called F4A. And F4A is a deregulation of the trucking industry that provides statutory preemption, federal preemption for brokers, motor carriers, and freight forwarders. And then there's an exception for safety regulation in the state. It's a very complex area of law involving trucking. But in the 11th Circuit, where Florida is a part of the 11th Circuit, the broker is immune
very complicated.
The broker is immune from liability. So there is federal preemption as it relates to brokers in this type of situation in personal injury claims. In California, in the 9th Circuit, they do not have immunity. So if you brought this suit, now I think there is diversity jurisdiction here because you have a California company, California driver, right? So you probably have federal court application, but there is a split in the circuits on this very issue of whether you can sue the broker or not. Now here's let's assume I'm the Florida defense attorney representing the broker. You know what I'm talking about, is a technical term, right? Yeah. And they can bring that. And in the 11th Circuit in Florida, the 11th Circuit says the brokers are immune, but there's a possibility the U.S. Supreme Court could say they're not. And the plaintiff's attorney says, I want $1 million from you. I want your policy limits. If I don't tender those and the Supreme Court then overturns it and I'm wrong, now they've busted the limit and it's whatever, it's 100 million, 200, 500 million dollars.
Yeah, it could get astronomical from there.
So do you pay the million or do you risk the chance of the law going that way? See, this is
that's why these trucking companies are so quick to write a check and have you sign
that's with all large
shoot.
business.
What's the word I'm looking for, Steve? Well, you won't sue. It's right there. Tip my tongue and I can't say it.
Oh, settlement.
Yeah, but there's a specific term to it where if you get into an accident, there we go. NDA.
I'm doing civil, so I'm thinking about articles I can write in civil, and one of them is on the split regarding federal preemption under F4A for brokers and freight forwarders and motor carriers, actually. But motor carriers, what's required under F4A in the 11th Circuit, this is real technical, but is that the party with the direct relationship with the vehicle is the one that they want you to sue. So in this case, it would be the motor carrier, the driver of this company, right? But it's these expanding arcs and circles that plaintiffs' lawyers are getting creative with. Those are the ones that are cut out under F4A. But it's a circuit split, and in the 11th Circuit is split from the 9th Circuit. So there may be a U.S. Supreme Court weighing in on that. It's one of these hot issues in the trucking industry right now. I'm sorry, that was I was
no. It's a fascinating argument because I could see it, and that's all we need is more lawsuits in the trucking industry.
That's why the insurance is so expensive. Yeah. And then you get what you call nuclear verdicts. You know what a nuclear verdict is? Do you hear? Remember they had the guy that with the bumper. You were talking about the bumpers earlier, and the bumper. I think Wabash, and they had the bumper, and the guy came in and undercut the trailer, and the bumper failed and killed the two people in the car, and that was a $500 million verdict. It's called a nuclear verdict. Now, it doesn't matter that the guys were drunk and they were speeding and the truck was stopped and, all of the facts like that. I think I did a stream on that. And, but it doesn't, or maybe I did. I spoke out in Arizona on that case. But the thing is that those huge verdicts that are basically, if Wabash was stupid, that's true. But yet the verdict stands, right? I mean, it's a huge verdict. And that's what everybody fears. That's why they pay out these $1 million settlements on cases that you wouldn't think. Where there's say, oh, well, there's no liability here. There's no liability here is what they say, right? Oh, that doesn't count. I drove safe.
Plus,
I didn't do anything wrong.
they don't want it to go to trial because then you have case precedents. If you have
Right.
case precedents, it makes it a whole lot easier in the future. So avoid the
Yeah,
courts
but
altogether.
it's sort of one of these moving goalposts. The problem is they settle cases they shouldn't. They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
take cases
Yeah.
to trial, and then they pay them off, and then they just encourage more frivolous stuff.
Absolutely. I worked with a couple of lawyers out of Louisiana back in 18 and 19 because there was a insurance scam going around where cars were deliberately wrecking with trucks, causing wrecks, and then cashing in. And I worked with them to put together a seminar to teach drivers what to pay attention to. The identifiers of someone about to try and set you up for an insurance scam. And it was rather fascinating. The guys that I talked to who had been in wrecks where it was turned out to be a scam, and it ended up being a tri-state deal between Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, and all the different agencies that got involved to try and crack this down because it was a whole ring. It was an organized ring, deliberately causing wrecks, which this happens nationwide, and in civil litigation with trucks.
Yeah, and there's actually I know that there's some litigation going on in New York, where in the insurance companies, some of these insurance companies are turning the tables on these plaintiffs' firms. The plaintiffs' firms were basically paying doctors and paying people to get injured and generating these fraudulent claims. And some of the insurance companies got together and turned the tables on them and sued them under a RICO fraud conspiracy, civil suits. So they sued the plaintiffs' firms for fraudulently creating claims. And I'm all for it because, again, we need truth. The companies that are liable should pay. The fraudulent claims should be fought. The truth should be upheld, right? If you've got if somebody demands $1 million and you owe it, pay it, right? Yeah. But if somebody demands $1 million and absolutely they shouldn't, then everybody should say, no, that should not be paid.
And this is another reason why cameras are becoming so prevalent in the trucking industry, and insurance companies are requiring cameras in a lot of trucks. I know of somebody who a few years ago, they're going on the highway, a car was in the right-hand lane, in a curve of the road, crossed the line into them, spun, went out into the median, and of course immediately they're like, oh my God, you hit us, you hit us, you hit us, you hit us. The driver kept their mouth shut, didn't say nothing. One guy said, oh, you ran into us, you ran into us, you ran into us. The state trooper showed up. The father is like, oh, he crossed the line and hit us and blah, 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 blah. Truck driver didn't say anything. Finally, the state trooper went back to talk to him. He goes, I got cameras. Let's go watch them. And he goes, well, I need your side of the story. He goes, it's all on the camera. Showed him the camera and showed where you could see the car cross the white line into him and then turn across the front of his truck. And he went, oh. Got back out of the driver's truck, walked up to the guy who was screaming it was all driver's fault and said, I'm going to give you one opportunity to tell me the truth. Well, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to give you one opportunity to tell me the truth. And the guy continued to lie. And all of a sudden the bracelets came out. And all of a sudden the truth serum hit. And he decided he wanted to go, well, maybe she crossed the line. It was when she did cross the line. But, whether it was an insurance scam or just trying to protect them. What do we got going on here?
Hey, Hunter Brooks, thank you for the nice compliment. He makes an interesting point. He says, White Star, the shipping industry thing. He says, that's not a very good name, because White Star wasn't that the Cunard line in the Titanic?
Yep, it was. Yeah.
That's a funny.
As soon as you said that, it suddenly clicked in my head. The big bad case coming a semi-truck accident, insurance scam, and EDLA. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ag.
Yeah, it's so reactive. I mean, crime and fraud is just, it's a bad thing. And I don't know.
J-Rock, with the neighborhoods you go into to pick up women, I don't know if that's a good idea. Got to pick on J-Rock. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do see the symbol there. It's going to be interesting. It's not even just the fact of the crime he committed and the charges coming on him. The political fallout from this is going to be big. A lot of the trucking industry
there's a lot of politics in it, and that's part of what's driving the story.
The regulation doesn't get lost in it because this is just the case that caught the national attention. Just a few weeks ago, there was one in Texas where a immigrant driver who shouldn't have been driving killed people. Bad accident. A few years ago in Colorado, an immigrant who didn't speak English came down a mountain in Colorado, killed several people, was sentenced to an extensive period in prison, and was just released very recently because it was declared that he couldn't understand what he did wrong because he didn't speak the language. There was another one in Canada just recently.
Everybody's outraged and all this stuff. My guess, my educated guess, is that the justice system will move forward. He will be convicted of 3 counts of vehicular homicide. He will get decades in prison. He will get substantial decades in prison. But it won't solve anything. There will still be 3 dead people, and those families will still be without, loved ones. And it's still a tragedy. The punishment, everybody wants to be up in arms and say the system will grind them down. Will work.
Oh God! And these poor families are going to be used as political pawns. They're going to put them in front of the cameras. They're going to put them in the press conferences. They're going to, there's going to be a bill put before Florida legislation.
But it doesn't need to be. It's going to work. They're going to be punished. It's going to be very severe. There will be another immigrant some other time that will do the same, or even non-immigrant. There will be people that do stupid stuff and kill people, innocent people. And, it's tragedy, and it happens. And there's no perfect world we're going to live in. So we're sort of rather.
Tragedy happens, but the way in which this accident happened should have never happened.
Yeah, well, but that happens a lot. I mean, most crime is that way. This should never have happened.
That was the one thing with playing the videos of the petition where, it was just an accident. It was just an accident. Accidents have consequences. And that's one thing with truck driving is every decision you make could cost a life, and you're responsible for that life.
Yeah,
but back in the day, truck drivers were considered the guardians of the highway. We were the ones long before GPS and everything else, we knew every route there was. Which I find myself relying on GPS now more than I ever did, considering I grew up on paper maps. But get lazy with it. But it's gone downhill so bad over the last 20, 30 years from what it was. The standards are so much lower. There's so much more politics involved.
Yeah, but that's the way it is with our society generally. You're seeing it in your industry. I'm seeing it in law. The politics that's getting infused in law and the justice system is just a reflection of the society in general.
Hasn't the politics always really been there in law, though?
Well, yes, but no. I mean, I was trained with a great prosecutor, and he was just saying, do the right thing. And he was very, he was political, but he was not. It wasn't, I don't know. I think the culture is being reflected into the criminal justice system, into the justice system generally. And it's a very bad thing. I think it's gotten much worse.
Because if you look like historically, senators, representatives, stuff like that, all come from legal backgrounds. And, majority of them are all lawyers.
Yes, but there's been a real cultural decay in the United States and in the West generally. And
you can see that even in the prosecutors' offices throughout the country, which, YouTube has opened up a lot of people's eyes to the fact that a lot of these prosecutors' offices are so political in the way they do things. I mean, the Karen Reed case, the YSL case, even the Trump cases in Atlanta.
Alex Baldwin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the worst, that Atlanta prosecutor is terrible.
Fanny, yeah.
Just terrible.
Well, Fulton County's always been a horrible judicial system there.
A jail system that holds people for over 400 days without any formal charges blows my mind.
Well, there is a check on that. There is a check on that. It requires good defense attorneys, but it also requires good judges. Yeah. So, who are willing to enforce the law. It's broken. The system's very broken, and a lot of it comes from the people. So we need to encourage, a lot of the things I was talking about truth and about not credentialism, but instead actual meritocracy. we need to get back to that meritocracy idea that we've kind of drifted away from, and we've gone into credentialism and this DEI stuff, and it's just poison.
Hell, they even ruined Cracker Barrel, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, good, a nice group of chat. We got Zach here, fun, and we got a lot of Shizzy Wiznut people that hung out. Thank you to you guys for hanging. It's very good. I'm learning. So what else do you want to cover? We're getting a little late here.
No, I think that pretty much does it. I was going to say that having your chat here brings our chat up a class. Yes.
Well, I can't say I don't even want to say the name of your channel. What's that say about it?
What? When we started this channel, we were trying to think of names to come up with for it, and friends of ours are like, "Well, you're a bunch of assholes, so just call it Assholes React." And we went, "Yeah." And so far, YouTube hasn't gotten mad at us over it.
Yeah.
So
let's see.
You had book number 7 of my death penalty debates book.
Yep,
That's pretty cool.
I signed book number 7.
Hardcover, very cool, and a very popular book.
So we are Assholes React. You can follow us on Twitter at Assholes React. You can email us at aholesreact@gmail. We're on Rumble and YouTube every Sunday for the most part. We skip one here or there at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we give our opinion on everything, whether you've wandered or not, because if you tuned in, evidently you want our opinion. Few people to thank. Jess, our super mod, is here tonight. Pretty rare occasion. She's got some big life changes. She doesn't get to hang out with us anymore. Our intro video was made by Vilhammer Media, good friend of the channel. And the music itself, made by Zero Max Studios, another good friend of the channel.
Yep.
Really great guy. Just opened up a massage parlor. With that, Steve, we really appreciate you coming tonight. You were actually the perfect man to have for this.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I learned a lot from it. And it's great I finally make your real acquaintance. I know I've seen you in my chat a lot and you interacted, but to actually be on your show is a real honor. And you have a lot of wisdom. This is a neat thing. We open our ears. You can learn things from people who have different life experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fondant, I always love having you in the chat. Good to see Jessica again. I haven't seen her in a while. I miss her. And, she's a good people. And so anyway, well, and night and beer, you didn't say much, but it's good.
This is outside my wheelhouse. So, but
with that, I'm Whiskey 77, the ugly old guy next to me who dyes his beard to stay not white. He's 3 beers. We'll catch y'all later. Have a good night.
Oh, there she is. There she is. Why did she make that look cool?
The truth, we take it higher. Watch the fence, we tear them apart. You step out of line, we hit you hard. I think they run the show. Push your power where they shouldn't go. We come out, spit on that thing. Respect the law, or ditch your own grave. We like what we think, we speak the truth. Chase it down, we bring the proof. React, draw, no filter here. Beer and whiskey, we shift the gears. Chase the beer, chase the flame.